Hi again, Lockie here. We'll carry on now with the build on the F22. What I'm going to do, I'm going to cut the slots for the elevators. I've found a couple of pieces of aluminium tube. Hardest thing is with this is finding some aluminium tube that suits some around about this. This is about 4mm, 4mm carbon fibre tube, and the hardest thing is finding a piece of aluminium tube that will slide nicely for a hinge or a bearing or bush or whatever you'd like to call it. So that's a little bit of aluminium tube that fits really nice onto the carbon fibre. Now I've also cut this carbon fibre to length, and I've glued onto it a servo arm. I've glued this on with epoxy resin onto the carbon fibre, and just to be sure, to be doubly sure, what I'm going to do, I'm going to drill, I've already drilled a hole in it somewhere there, I'm going to drill a hole right through I've gone right through the plastic horn and right through the carbon fibre. And I'm going to put a little bit of wire, if I can find a bit. Just a tiny little bit of piano wire through there, like that. I might just bend over the end of it. Like that, and then bend that around there. Bend as easy as I thought I could. Okay. Probably a little bit of overkill, but I would rather be safe than sorry. I don't want that spinning. And what I'll do, I'll just put a bit more glue on that, maybe a bit of hot glue, so it's not going to twist. And this is going to sit in there like that. But first of all, what I'm going to do, I've marked these through the, this is where the carbon fibre hinge is going to fit, so I've marked with a pin, and now I'm just going to trim out the slot on both. just as we did with the I can find it. There we go. Okay, as we did with the carbon fibre spar in the wings, I'm just going to cut sort of halfway through the Depron. Again, with a screwdriver, I'm just going to peel that back. Again, I'm just going to press that in, make sure it fits okay. Okay, what I might do is round off. Probably easier to stand these on before they're fitted, roughly anyway, later, but it's easy just to take the edges off. Okay. Hot glue working. Yep, I'm going to just put a bit of hot glue over that pin I put in. Okay, looks a bit messy, but it'll be okay. I've marked where I need to cut out the slot there. I'll just recheck that. Now I've got the slots in there. Okay, now once again I'm going to that's where that one's going to sit there, and that's where that one's going to sit there. So I'm going to take the slot out on that one. Doing the same. I have to go right across because the two will go right through. Again, I'm just sort of going about halfway through, maybe a little more, and then we'll peel that out again. Good idea to start from the edge when you're peeling this out, because if you come into the edge, you'll probably break the little bit away from the edge. So it's a good idea to actually peel in from the edge on both sides. Okay, now I'm going to use the piece of aluminium tube this time. It's going to be pretty weak down there, so just be a little careful with this, because there's really nothing holding this little bit here. Maybe it wouldn't be a bad idea to put a bit of tape under that just to hold everything in place so it doesn't snap off. And especially so it doesn't burn through when I put the hot glue on there. Okay, so I'll put a little bit of tape under that. Now, it's pretty important that these trouble is with this cheap carbon fibre too, it tends to split a bit at the ends if you're not careful. It's very important that these hinges, bearings, whatever, are quite free moving. Now I have measured this. So that sits in the middle of the slot there. And it seems we're getting, this is pivoting on this little slot there, so I might have to just hold it off with a bit of scrap, Depon or fine board or something. Just in that area, because it's very important that this stays pretty flat, because this hinge needs to be nice and free. You don't want any actually binding on the bit of tape that I put on there, if you would believe that. Okay, what I'm going to do now is glue this in position, making sure that I only glue that area there where the aluminium tube is, And that area there with the aluminium tube is so I don't get any glue on the carbon fibre tube. So I'm going to bead of glue in there, just a white bead, and the same again in there. Make sure I get this in the right position. Quite important that this tube is at least parallel through, so that it spins nice and free. You don't want any binding at all on this tube. So what I'm going to do is put again, as I did with the spar in the wing, and again make sure none of this glue gets on the carbon fibre, otherwise it will bind up and be very difficult get it free. Okay, it's spinning nice and free. Now then, once again, I want to make sure that when I attach the elevators, that they're both nice and flat with everything else. So that is going there, and that one in there. Making sure, because we're working from the top, I want the carbon fibre to be underneath, not on top. So I'm going to glue it down this side first, like this, to make sure everything's nice and flat, and then I'll turn it over and run a bead of glue in there. Probably not necessary, but if you had a little washer, it wouldn't hurt to put a little washer in there. But what I'm going to do is just leave a small gap there, and the same at that side, just so that we've got a little bit of clearance for it to pivot. I'm going to run a bead of hot glue down into there. I'm going to set that straight into there. Just make sure that you don't get any hot glue inside the tube, otherwise it's not going to spin. So it's probably a good idea, if possible, to keep away from that edge a little. I didn't on the other one, I forgot, but probably not a bad idea. I've left a bit of a gap there, and I'm going to hold that flat now to make sure that the whole thing is flat. More important that both elevators are level with each other, and the horn is facing up. I've got that a little bit on a slant, but it's not that important. So long as it's pointing straight up and not off to one side. Not bothered about that because we can trim that out there. Just going to trim a little bit out of the aileron there for now. I've left the aileron in purposely to give me a guide as to where these actually fitted. So as you can see, we've now got a nice free moving elevators. It's got a little bit of twist, but you're always going to get that unless you use a very, very heavy carbon fibre tube. You're always going to get a little bit of twist on there. But the other model I did with the same setup has got the same sort of thing, so, and it didn't really affect the stability, so it seems to be fine. Let me take a little bit out of there as well. I will be okay. Catching a little bit on the edge there. A little bit needed to be sanded out of there. That can be done later, just to make sure that it's nice and free. But we've got so that's the elevators in place with the hinge. And what I'm going to do now, I think I'm just going to put a piece of tape across this to hold them in position so they're not flopping around